Don't insult your audience the first thing you do in your presentation. That is one of the tips that I'm going to be sharing with Lisa on today's live presentation feedback session. We'll also cover how to design effective slides and how to make sure that all participants can access your materials. In this coaching session, I'm talking to Lisa Treadwell. She's a real estate agent based in Indianapolis, and she organizes educational sessions about real estate for senior citizens. Lisa asked for my help in improving her presentation, and she agreed that I publish our conversation. You can learn more about Lisa and her business with the links in the video description below. My name is Markus. I am a 3-time TEDx speaker and communication coach. If you want to hire me to help you with your next big presentation, please get in touch. Just write to me at contact@markuspresents.com. Now let's jump over to our Zoom call. First, we're going to hear Lisa's presentation, which is about 10 minutes. And it's kind of a skeleton presentation that she uses to introduce her event and the panelists. After the presentation, we'll have a discussion about what worked, and I will also highlight some opportunities for improvement. You can navigate between the different sections in the presentation with the chapter markings on the timeline. Now let's jump over to the Zoom call.
Welcome to the Indy Senior Living Series. If you're not sure where you are, that's where you are. Every second Thursday of the month, right here at the Anchor at Keystone from 10 to 11:30. We have this educational outreach to you all, and it's free thanks to some really great sponsors, which are here at the side of the room, and then also on our PowerPoint slide. In your handouts, you also have all of their contact information. And I will tell you that all of these sponsors are people who my team and I have vetted out for you. We've either shared clients or we've been a client of theirs ourselves. So we believe in them and we trust them. And that's why we align ourselves with them. So thank you all. Make sure that you visit their tables. They have goodies for you and some educational information and maybe even some monthly specials. So be sure to visit their tables and grab their information before you leave today. And again, you're at the Indy Senior Living Series. Today's topic is about how to net the most amount of return on your investment at your property. I'm sorry, repair and maintenance items to net the most amount of return on your investment. Just some housekeeping things. If you're on Zoom, welcome. And our audience, you can see we have our camera here set up. So everybody out in the audience, wave to our Zoom members and say hello. Your mics and your mics and your cameras are turned off and muted. You're welcome to turn those on, the cameras, but please leave your microphone's muted because you're on a speaker here, Zoom attendees, and so your sound will broadcast into the room here. So if you do have a question and you're on your phone, you can *6. If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand, type in the chat box. Sarah's here watching the chat box for questions, and I'll check occasionally for questions there, and we'll get those answered. If you're watching the live stream, you can type your questions into the chat box, and we'll ask them here live as well. And then obviously, if you're here in person, just raise your hand and we'll get your questions answered. We've got our upcoming events, which you can register for on downsizingindy.com. We love it if you RSVP. Obviously, we're not going to turn you away if you don't RSVP, but it helps us understand who's going to be live and who's going to be on Zoom. We need to make sure we have enough food and coffee for the live attendees and chairs. We don't want you standing for 90 minutes straight. So you can do that online, or you can call the number, the Google Voice number, and leave me a voicemail, and we get those. We check them before the event, and the number's there, and it's also in your packets that you have here. Next month, May 12th, an attorney, a CPA, and a funeral planner. That's always a big party. We love those three guests. And every year we do this topic, and it's actually a very popular topic. We learn something. I learned something even every year. So again, I mentioned our sponsors. You saw their logos and their contact information in the flyers. Be sure to visit them. And then if you haven't registered for a prize, or make sure that you do the feedback form at the end, and we'll get you registered for a prize. For the people on Zoom, actually, because the people live here actually have a form they're filling out. We will post a link to the feedback in the chat box toward the end of the panel for your Zoom attendees to provide feedback. So our guests here today are three people, again, that we use. I said before, our sponsors are people that we've vetted out. Our panelists are also people that we've either shared clients with or we've used ourselves. And so you can be assured that they are reputable companies and will give the same great service that we expect. So we've got HomeSense Heating and Cooling, Irongate Home Inspection Services, and Michelle here, and I'll have them introduce themselves. And so, the panelists would go and introduce themselves, and also their contact information is in the packets that you received in person. And then online attendees, we're going to put the link to the chat, or I'm sorry, to the Google Drive that has the handouts that the online attendees have. We'll put that in the chat so that you can grab those if you're interested. So I'm not going to actually do that right now, but Sarah would do that, if we were live. All right, so let's dive into it. So the panelists already introduced themselves. They told a little bit about their background, and so our next question is, what are the common repairs and maintenance or maintenance that you find that are often overlooked? And HomeSense will let you go first, and then we'll just work our way down the line. And so they would answer the question. We would field, audience questions and look online for questions, and then I'll just move on to the next question if that's okay. Okay. That's great. So what maintenance and repairs should homeowners prioritize? We get this long list, especially if we've done a pre-home inspection before we're going to list the house. So we get this big 40-page report from you, Irongate, and now how do we prioritize the repairs that we should make before we list our house? And okay, so he would go down the line and talk about which items to prioritize. In this particular event, I think some things came up like furnace and AC, roof, things like that. So then we'll field audience questions. Are there any questions online? Again, be sure to just type them in the chat, and we will look for those. Sarah will alert me and let me know that you've got a question. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so what improvements net the most return on investment? We're doing all these things and in hopes to sell and get the most return on investment. What are some of the things that help us do that? And so our folks would answer. I might chime in there and say, as a real estate agent, most people focus on the cosmetic things like, I need to paint this room. I need to replace the carpet. When really the reason why I had these panelists up here is because mechanicals would be where it's at typically, especially in this market. We have a shortage of inventory, and we have too many buyers for not enough houses on the market. So what that means is that you don't necessarily have to do a lot of the cosmetic things. You can put your house out there, maybe not in the perfect cosmetic shape, but like if things are working well and you've got a new roof and a new furnace and AC and maybe even a new water heater, things like that are big ticket items. Make sure your garage door is in good shape. Your garage door opener is in good shape because those are big ticket items. people can replace carpet and paint as they go along. They can live in the house at least. Maybe that's not cosmetically in the way that they want it, but they don't care about that right now. They're just really trying to get into a house. So that's question number 4. Do we have any questions from the online audience? Sarah is checking in the chat. Okay, good. So we'll go on to the next question. How do attendees request your services? So I'll just mention again, all of the contact information for our panelists is in the handouts. And if you're online, we posted that Google Drive and the handouts are also in there. But if you are here in person, you're welcome to talk to our panelists after the event, get their business card, things like that. And then they'll, make any comments, and I'll just open it up for some further just general questions. And so here, I'll just say what happened this past month. A lot of people started asking about cosmetic things again, even though we said, cosmetic doesn't matter. So we, talked about that, and we talked about the importance of getting a pre-home inspection so that there's a list that they could look at and just make the repairs. So we fielded all those questions, and so I'm going to remind everybody just before we leave today, please fill out the feedback if you're here in person. I look at those personally, and we really take them to heart. If there's a topic that you would like us to talk about next year, just write it on your form and we'll take a look at that. And if you are online, we've posted the link to our feedback. You'll just click on that and give us the feedback, and we'll enter you into a drawing for a $25 gift card if you give us that feedback. So, and then we're gonna, what else? Okay, so feedback, RSVP again for next month's event by calling the Google number and just leaving me a voicemail. That's all it is, but I promise I check it. Or you can go online and check out our events there and RSVP for multiple ones if you'd like. Remember to invite others. I know you guys are so great about that. You're so proud when you come in and say, I brought 2 friends with me, and it's great to see there's a group of ladies over here. I call them the nurses because they're all retired nurses. So it's really nice to see all of you and new faces every month, and we appreciate that. So with that, I will leave the sponsors up there again, and we will see you next month. Thank you all for attending.
That was the end of Lisa's presentation. Now let's jump over to our feedback session. If you want to hire me to help you with your next big presentation, please get in touch. contact@markuspresents.com. And how do you feel about the presentation?
I mean, I would say that's pretty much about how it goes. They get the most sort of out of sorts when they cannot hear. And I know you've talked about it so much. Audio is the most important thing. And so I work on that a lot.
That could actually be something that you could add as a point to the script, is just to check if everybody is hearing you correctly. That could be one of the kind of housekeeping items.
Yeah.
Because it could be something at your end, or it could be something at the other end as well. So maybe it could be easy to check to say well, if they can't hear you, then it's a problem. But if they can hear you barely, at least you could ask, if you're having audio problems, please raise your hand now. And if like 80% of the people are raising their hand,
then we have a problem.
That could be a good way to get some kind of positive confirmation.
Yes.
Because I think people are not, like, if it's not incredibly bad, people are not going to speak up.
Yeah. I think, I can agree with that. And a lot of times I actually do ask if they can hear. This past month, it's so silly, the things that happen when I do have audio issues. It's like I had 2 mics on the same channel, and, or I had a cord not plugged in or something. It's typically like and so we've been working on getting there earlier, or just practicing the setup, not on the day of the event, and things like that.
But even if you ask something like, is everybody happy with the audio? And let's say 80% of the people just are happy with the audio and they raise their hand. That's a nice way to get some positive energy into the meeting as well. That's something that I do at the comedy club. So I might start the show by saying, give yourselves a big round of applause. And like, it doesn't actually do anything other than just raises the energy.
The energy. Yeah.
So if you can get them to say yes from the very beginning, I think that could also be good for sales.
I like that. Yeah.
That's a little guerrilla trick.
You know, something else when you said that it's good for sales. I think that I focus a lot on not making it a sales pitch, but then I forget to even promote myself. Sometimes I do. If the topic is specifically about real estate, then I can obviously do it. But like this one was with some contractors, and I didn't like even say anything.
Right. I have a suggestion for that.
Okay.
You could add your own logo to the list of panelists at the end.
Yeah.
And then it becomes natural. You just say, okay, these are the 3 companies, and then me, I'm here for the real estate side.
Yeah, that's a good. We could do that.
Because the audience also, they want to know who's on the stage, right? And if you don't introduce yourself, I've been there as well. Like if you forget to introduce yourself, that's a little bit awkward.
I know. Yeah. And I just sometimes forget. I forgot on this recording. So, and that would be something I would do in a live presentation to forget. So
yeah, absolutely. But just adding the logo is just a little reminder. It could even be on a separate slide, like if you have the 3 main ones, and then you have another little animated thing.
Oh yeah. Okay, like on the list of panelists. Yeah. Okay.
I think that would be a good fit because you are kind of on the panel as well. You may be moderating the panel, but you are on the panel.
Yeah, maybe we could have it like moderator. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, moderated by, and then your own logo on there.
Yeah,
I think it could be helpful. I like the format that you make it clear in the very beginning what the questions are going to be. And I think that is quite unusual for a panel discussion, but I think it's really good because then the people know exactly what's coming up. And especially if you are expecting them to watch this on the replay, I think that's really good. It's kind of like a good hook. Here's the promise of the video. If this is what you want, then keep watching. But if it's not what you're looking for, then go watch something else.
Okay. Yeah, we do give the panelists the questions before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. I'm failing at my own setup here. There we go. No, I liked it, and I am sure that people are very happy with the format as well, because it appears to be super like practical questions. These are the questions that people are actually asking, and you have these panelists answer them. And I think that there's a clear value proposition in these events. And I also imagine that the topic is different every session. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that also gives people a reason to come back.
Yeah, and I really focused this year on giving each topic catchy titles because some of the attendees have been attending since I started these 6 years ago. And so if they see something that's the same topic as something they've already visited, they may not attend, but there's always something new. So to learn, so I really focused this year on, because I plan each event 1 year in advance. So I start in like September, October planning so I already know all the topics. They're already posted on the website, and we reach out to the speakers, in the fall of the year before to get them on the calendar because we want good speakers. And you got to get, so anyway, yeah.
Do you use any kind of a headline analyzer tool to write these catchy headlines, or do you do that manually?
No, but that would be, I didn't even know that existed. See,
I can give you I can share the one that I use.
Okay.
This is the best that I have found, and there's a free tier and there's a paid tier. I do use the paid tier, but you can I used to use the free tier as well. It's by a company called CoSchedule. And it's this headline writing tool, and it's pretty cool. Okay,
that's great. I'll check it out.
let's see if I can quickly find this example. So it'll actually give you like a score of your headline in various dimensions. Like, is it the right length? Is it positive enough? Is it skimmable? Is it easy to understand? How does it like if you have the paid version, it also looks at other similar headlines on the web and how does it compare to those in terms of keywords and the attractiveness. So
I like that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
And so one of the basic ideas here is that if you have some emotional value that you can add to your headline, that will usually get people excited. Or if it is a very clear kind of how-to, or if it answers a question, or if it's a list, like here are the 3 most important tips for renovating your home, that kind of thing. It encourages you to think like that.
Okay.
Might be useful.
Yeah, that'll be a good resource for the titles for next year.
So let me have a look at my notes here. You started your presentation with something along the lines of we're doing this topic in case you're unsure where you are.
Yeah.
Was that intentional? Because that sounds super condescending to me.
Oh, does it? No, I'm so sorry. Okay, that's a good perspective.
I mean, not to me personally, but like,
no,
I imagine
it's like,
that if you're a senior,
no,
if you're a
it's meant to
senior,
be,
right? You may.
well, I guess, yeah, I never even thought about that way. It's meant to be like a joke, like, hey, if you don't know where you are, like that would happen to me too, and so it just is like a way to say that you're at this event and they happen every single month, and the time and the place is always the same. But yeah, I didn't even think about that sounding condescending to seniors.
Right, because the kind of stereotype is that they may get a little bit confused, and that may not be something that you want to
It's
reinforce.
absolutely not meant to be that way. I mean, I get confused, and I'm only in my 40s, so okay. Well, that's a really great perspective. Yeah.
There's certainly better ways that you can say that this is the topic of today, and it could be something like, in today's session you are going to learn the 3 most important things for increasing the value of your house, or whatever it may be, like a clear value proposition, or it could be a question, or something like that, as a strong hook.
Oh my gosh, I've been doing that for like a really long time,
and nobody's ever said anything.
No. Like, of course we know where we are. Why do you keep saying that? No one's ever said that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean,
but I can see totally what you mean.
As somebody who does comedy, I have nothing against insulting the audience at the beginning, but I think it has to be.
That's a little rough. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's totally meant to be just like a joke icebreaker thing. And yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Well, if people are laughing, then it's a good joke. I cannot judge if it's a good joke or not in this particular context.
They don't really laugh.
Well, there we go. Maybe it wasn't a joke then.
I mean, they don't get mad. I mean, from what I can tell, they don't throw things at me, but maybe a chuckle here and there, but it's not like a energy boost like the other.
I think you can do better. That's what
yeah. All right, good.
Let's see. Then we have the thanks to the sponsors in the beginning. You list them on the slide, but you don't say their names. I'm guessing with such a high number of sponsors, that would probably take a little bit more,
Yeah, I feel like the front part of like the housekeeping things, it gets a little lengthy, and
correct.
I'm trying to really dive in, but they're there in person and they're there every month. Well, that's the expectation I set. Sometimes they can't, but I suppose I could run down the list real quick and have them like wave or something. And I have done that before.
That could be one way of doing it. You could also you could just have a sponsor of the month. Just talk about one of them. Maybe that could be a nice way to just highlight one particular sponsor, and then you make the commitment to the other ones that you will also be a sponsor of the month. Or whatever. I don't know if that would fit into the style, but it'd be one way to give some extra love to one of them, but still treating them the same.
Right. Okay.
Maybe.
We have a sponsor of the month who stands in this. They have like kind of a special booth at the location, But I suppose we could even highlight them further by saying their company name and giving the name of the person, the representative who's there,
Correct. I think that's
Yeah.
quite typical at events. If you have like a gold tier sponsor and then everybody else is a silver tier or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially at the corporate events that I've gone to, that part gets a little bit ridiculous because there's like so many different levels and they all have ridiculous commitments. But if you do it in a nice scaled down way, I think it can work.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was good that you had the sponsors. And then you said that you can visit their tables if you're in the room. And if you're online, the instruction was that they will find out more about the sponsors via the Google Drive. Was that correct?
Yes. We put, so we asked the sponsors if they have any handouts, or any kind of flyers to go ahead and send them to us, and then we'll scan them and put them in the Google Drive.
Yep.
But they're also the handout that we give to the audience that has the logos and the company information. We put that in the Google Drive as well.
Right.
So they
right.
have, yeah.
So in my impression was that part about them being available also for the online audience, that came a little bit later. Because when you were talking about go to the tables and have a look at what they have, it felt like that was only for the in-room audience. And I felt that the online participants were a little bit excluded at that point. It became clearer later that they can access it via the drive. But I think that point could be a little bit more inclusive.
Okay.
If you're in the room, go to the booths. If you're online, check the link that's in the chat.
Okay, I'm taking notes, so if you see me looking down, it just occurred to me that I'm not going to remember all of these tips.
Just remember the bit about the insulting the audience.
Yeah, that's number one. Change the intro.
I like the intro. I mean that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually pretty good about being just cognizant of the audience and their needs or how they're different than, other people's, but yeah, that was bad.
Let's see, what else do I have? And then I noticed very clearly that you were not looking into the camera at all.
Oh, so,
I think you should look into the camera.
Okay, I did that and I thought about that during the thing. So I was looking here like this on purpose because the panelists are here beside me, but like the camera, how I have the camera set up, my Canon, the one that I don't even know, the one that you recommended.
Oh, the M50? Same one that I use, the M50?
Yes, M50. I forgot the number. I have it set up like in front of us so that the Zoom attendees can see me and the panelists. And I tell the panelists, by the way, that before the event, just that, pretend like this camera is another audience member. Yes. Right. And so I do tell them that everybody's not the best public speaker. So, they forget. But that's why I was looking this way. And I should have told you that before, but
that's okay. But that's a really good approach to treat the cameras and just another audience member. That works really well. I wonder though, are you doing this with one camera setup for a panelist of 4 people?
Yeah, I have one camera set up for the panel, and then I use my cell phone to put that camera on the audience.
Oh yeah.
So we just square with the audience. The only thing that I don't do that I think you have is I don't have a picture of the online audience for the in-person people to see.
Right.
The reason behind that is I just didn't want it to be like a distraction. The rooms that we've been in, they have a projector. They do have a projector and a screen and everything, but I don't know. It was just like one more thing, and I just felt like it wasn't like super important.
Correct. And in any case, your online participants are going to have the video off, so that wouldn't really add anything anyway. Yeah,
some of them do. But some of them, and that was another thing too, I thought it would be a distraction because it's like at the front of the room, it's this big, huge screen of people's faces. And they do the weirdest things. Like, I don't know, they'll get up and, and so I didn't want it to be like a distraction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In my hybrid meetings, I actually place the projector screen on the other side of the room, so that it
Oh,
is on the opposite side from where the panelists or where the speaker is sitting, so that the
okay.
speakers can look at the screen, but the in-room audience, they don't necessarily need to see the screen.
Actually, that's really interesting, because the way that we changed the setup of our room, when we changed to a training room, we've been struggling with the setup, but I think we finally got it. And the projector and the screen is actually on the other side. So that is really actually something that we could do if we wanted to add more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not a high priority to add that. Maybe it's not going to add a lot of value, but that
yeah.
could be another option. Okay, so we had looked into the camera, we had the calls to action, you had all the topics outlined. Well, your second page there in your slide deck, I think it was a very generic kind of welcome to the session. Like it looked, in my estimation, super generic. Maybe that could be an opportunity, that second page, to really highlight what the topic is. And if I remember correctly, the biggest word on there was welcome. That's not the
Yes.
most important thing. The most important thing is, what are the results that you will get out of listening to this talk?
Okay.
So I think if you rearrange that slide and maybe make it a little bit more visually appealing, to really focus on the value. And in an in-person event, it may not matter. And if on a live stream, it may not matter. But on the replay, it can be super valuable, so that people get the impression within the first, discounting the sponsors part, but like within the first 5 seconds of a YouTube video, the audience should know what the topic is,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to be able to achieve that because you have the sponsors before that. But if you wanted to optimize for YouTube, you could actually swap those around to say, okay,
Yeah.
here's the topic of today. Now let's thank our sponsors, and then we're going to.
Yeah. You do a really good job of that in your videos. I like that. Okay.
I've
Yeah,
learned.
we
I have
could
learned.
just we could just swap those out very easily.
Exactly. To really focus on the value or the results or the outcomes or the questions, just having something attention grabbing at the very beginning, I think is very
Yeah. Okay.
But it's good that the topic was clear from the beginning there. Then you also had in the housekeeping section, you talked about that you can use the chat, or you can give us a call. You had many different ways. Does your audience know how to use the chat?
Okay, so yes, they do. They
Good.
know how to use the chat if they're on Zoom. I've noticed every now and then we have like 1 or 2 people who phone in. So that's why I say do push *6 on your phone if you're calling in.
Yeah.
And we have actually had somebody use that before. Sometimes they will just unmute themselves and start talking, and that's fine too. You know, we just roll with it sometimes.
Yeah, it happens. That's not a big problem, really.
Yeah.
Okay, good. If people know how to use it, because my suggestion was going to be that maybe that slide could benefit from a little picture of the chat window or something like that, like a
Oh,
little visual on exactly how to do it.
oh yeah.
And I was
Okay.
also thinking maybe that slide could be split into 2, because there's quite a lot of information on that one page,
Uh-huh.
and the text is maybe a little bit small, depending.
Yeah.
Like if you're viewing that on a phone, and if you're elderly, you may have impaired vision and all this stuff. I think in general, you could have fewer things per slide and bigger text.
Okay.
And that was one example when I thought about it. It's like, are people actually going to be able to follow this instruction?
Okay.
But other than that, it was clear how it works. You named the panelists. Oh yeah, for the panelists, you had the logos, but you did not have their photos or their names. Is that by design?
No, typically Sarah makes the slides, and so this will be like good feedback for her. Typically, I don't know what happened, if she didn't get their headshots or what, but we will have we do ask the panelists for headshots, and we'll put their picture and their name. But I don't know why, for some reason, she put their logos this month.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
we could definitely, do you think their headshots would be better than their logos, or both, or?
I'm thinking there, because it's 3 different kind of columns like that. I think they could be like the headshot and above and the logo below, or the other way around.
Okay.
People like to look at faces for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But that, I don't think that's a critical bit, especially if you can then at the same time actually see them on the panel.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be, which actually reminds me of another important point. During your whole presentation, you had your slides on, which means that my screen was mostly your slides and very
Yeah.
little of you. That's usually not a good balance. People usually want to see people.
Yes.
So
So she does, Sarah, like I said, I was doing this presentation with just me and, typically there are two people. She does turn it off so ultimately I told you before, I would really love to put the PowerPoint in OBS.
yeah.
So
That's a
that
good way to
she
do it.
doesn't even have to work with it, but then they could see the slides and they could see our faces at the same time.
Yeah.
And we could make it disappear too if they don't need the slide for anything.
Yeah, that I think is really powerful. And of course, I love OBS Studio, and OBS Studio is a great tool for doing that. But you could also just stop screen sharing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
It does
don't
do
need
that
constant.
occasionally.
Okay, oh, that's good.
And
That's good.
again, it's not my focus because she's doing it.
Yeah,
I am trying to be with the panelists and all the audiences. And I will occasionally just check, because my computer is right there in front of me. I will check the chat box and stuff like that. But yeah, she does turn it off, but that is something we could definitely focus on to have that balance.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, hold on. I take that back because she's not, wait, scratch all of that. She's in her own Zoom account.
Okay.
So she has one box. Well, I guess she is sharing. I'm just trying to think how this works. So she's in her own Zoom. We're actually on in 3 accounts. She's in her own Zoom, and then I have my computer and then my cell phone. And so, well, actually not my computer, the camera. So the camera's on the audience or on the panelist. But if she's sharing, would we have a box of the panelist?
Well,
if she's sharing her screen.
Well, typically, if you share a screen, it goes full screen on everybody's computer. You can click a little swap content button, but nobody will do that. So for 99% of the people, they will only see the slides.
Yeah.
And then a little, depending on if they go full screen or not, they will either see the faces at the top or
right.
To the right.
And they're probably not going to mess with this audience.
Yeah, correct. So, and I would imagine that the slides may be useful for a couple of minutes just to display the housekeeping things. But I would imagine that for most of the session, slides should be off.
Yeah.
All focus should be on the actual human beings there.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe this practice run was not a good illustration of that. But I would say that if it takes you 20 seconds to read what's on the slide and you're doing a 3-minute block about the housekeeping rules, then keep the slides only on for that 20 seconds and then stop sharing them, just to build a little bit more engagement. I think it's easier for people to watch, and especially on YouTube, people don't want to watch slides.
Right. Okay. I'm noting that.
But yeah, certainly OBS Studio is great for that because then you can switch it up on the fly.
Yeah. The only thing I worried about OBS is that I know you can adjust the size and even make it like a split screen to where you can see the speaker and on one side and then the slides.
Yeah.
So I just need to play around with it and make sure that the slides are big enough to see on OBS. Since we're
Correct.
sharing the screen.
Correct. And then you can, one of the best ways to then bring that over to Zoom is also that there's a function called full screen projector, which you can then activate and then share that to Zoom. That will then guarantee that you get a highest video quality and that there will be full screen on everybody's machine. So then you will be in charge of their experience. And that's pretty good.
Okay.
Definitely worth checking out. And even if you just had 2 scenes in OBS Studio, one where the slides are there and a little bit of camera, and then one where there's only the camera, even with those 2 scenes, you'll be able to create a pretty good looking view.
Okay.
And then of course you could add videos and web page and things like that,
They're
but that's
really
maybe for later.
fancy. I'm not as fancy as you.
But like a sponsor video, for example, let's say that
Yeah.
some gold tier sponsor wanted to have a 30-second video play before the show or in the middle of the show. That could be something that you can offer with OBS Studio.
Actually, that's a really good idea because I'm really hesitant about who to give the mic to, during these events. So I would never just give the mic to them and let them do an intro because who
Right.
knows what they're going to say. But I could offer them to do like a 20 or 30-second video and play it.
Yeah. And that could be a different like sponsorship tier opportunity or whatever. It could be something a little bit special.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So we have the panelists. I was happy that the questions were there, and it was good to have them up front. And there were good questions as well. Like I feel like these are like the way you asked the questions, or the way you presented the questions. I really got the feeling that that these are relevant and interesting questions, and I think that came across really well. It really that they do add some value to the audience. That's good.
Yeah, we think about what questions we want to ask, and we basically take them from the questions that we get asked most frequently.
Yeah.
Or like I have people who are attendees, they'll email me their own questions,
Yeah.
So yeah.
That is really good. And another aspect of that was that when you said about the feedback that we do read all the feedback. That I think that really encourages people to also share feedback. One of the things that I sometimes put in my emails is I read every reply. Just hit reply. I read every answer or something like that. People want to hear that, I think.
Yeah.
And one idea I had in that context, but maybe you could even give an example. Like last month, somebody suggested this, and now we have implemented this.
Oh.
So, so we are here for you to make this a great experience for you. So please share your ideas.
I have done that before. When they say like, we would love to hear this topic or what, it might be like aging in place. We'll say, we heard you. And so now we have this. Yeah.
I think that's good. That's basically what I had in my notes here. I think it's I'm getting the impression that these are really valuable events for your audience and for your partners as well.
Yeah, I also try to be intentional about adding value to those sponsors, especially because they're paying. It costs about $20,000 a year for me to put this on when I calculate advertising and the room space and all of that. And my goal is to obviously break even, or even beyond that. But yeah, so I had just, if you don't mind, if I can just run down this to make sure I didn't forget anything.
Absolutely.
I had number 1, change intro. Check the Zoom audience for audio and to get the positive vibes going. I feel like somewhere I missed one around here. I've got swap the welcome and sponsor slides so that we can engage the online audience quickly and let them know what to expect. Make the housekeeping 2 slides and also make a visual to show them how to ask questions.
Yeah, potentially. Oh, I think one of the things you may have missed there was look into the camera, but then that may not be relevant for
look into the camera more. Okay, and then, so switch those slides and make the 2 questions. Highlight the monthly sponsor, and we talked about a couple of ideas about how to do that here with the video and OBS and things. Rearrange the welcome slide. I don't know why
with the focus on the value proposition.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is not welcome explanation point. The most
important
thing is
and make it more
question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then turn off the screen share more frequently, and or work more with OBS. That's just a bit of a learning curve, and I need to get in there more.
Correct.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time there, but from what I've read, there's a huge learning curve, and it just takes practice, I think. Okay, work on OBS, possibly a sponsorship video in the future. And then use an example for feedback. And the one thing I know I forgot was I'm going to check out that headlines thing for the titles.
Oh yeah, Headline Studio by Co-Schedule. It's a good tool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And then, of course, include more of your own contact information and more of your own self-promotion. I'm not sure if I saw any of that in the slides so
No,
far.
you probably didn't. Yeah. And I feel like, so I'm directing people to my website. They'll go to YouTube and they can see, but again, like I could add it in the video for sure.
Yeah. And what is the most relevant channel for them? Would they rather call you, or is a website visit something that is natural to them, or?
It's a mix, actually. You have, a lot of them are on Facebook because they want to see their grandkids.
Yeah,
that's how they see their grandkids and engage with them. I think there are ways that I could beef up the YouTube. It hasn't been a focus for me, just because they're not actually visiting it a lot unless they go to the website, fill out the form, and then they can watch it that way.
Yeah.
I get views, and I actually use the number of views after the event to help promote it to the sponsors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But it's a mix. I mean, even on the advertising that I do an advertorial in our local paper. And I know people, like, not a lot of people do print advertising, but
Right.
that is where most of our audience members hear about the event.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
I mean, we also do like postcards to our database that we've, collected. And then we do an e-newsletter with an open rate of like over 40%.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And we do online promotion, just Facebook typically, and on Instagram. I mean, believe it or not, I had this 80-year-old lady one time. We did a bus tour of a senior community, and this lady and her husband came. I asked her how she heard about it, and she told me Instagram. And I was like, "You okay?"
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you got to reach your audience where they are.
Yeah.
So one idea, let's say that you would pick one of those contact channels. Let's say that you were to pick Facebook, for example. You could just do a little demo, 30 seconds. This is how you find us on Facebook, and just do a screen share. Here's my Facebook, and I'm going to type in the name of my business here, and you can find it there, and then you can hit the like button or whatever. That could be a nice little, they probably know how to do it, but to demonstrate it in action could be a nice way of, maybe they go and like the page during the session itself, rather than something that they will have to remember to do afterwards, for example.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking maybe even that's a quick video that we could add to our newsletter as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just make it easy for them. I think it needs a little bit more self-promotion of you based on the slides that I saw so far. Of course, I don't know how you interact at the actual event, but
I think that I probably focus so much on not being salesy and predatory to, a protected class of people, or, and that I might have gone too far the other way sometimes, so anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where that line is myself.
Yeah.
There's many different approaches.
Yeah.
So did you get some value out of these comments here today?
Oh, absolutely. I've got a to-do list, and I feel like it's a good way to get out of that complacent mode. I mean, I've been doing these so long, it's really easy just to get into the, just get really complacent. And so I'm glad I did this. At first I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? But I'm really glad.
I'm happy. That is a very,
and I'll just won't read the comments of people on YouTube when you post this video.
Let's see how we do that. You can always disable the comments. No, people are gonna be
no, I might get some good ideas. the comments too. So
In this coaching session, Lisa got some actionable tips that will really improve her next presentation. You can also hire me to help you with your next big presentation. Just reach out to me at contact@markuspresents.com for more information, or check out the links in the description below this video. To learn how to share engaging and impressive presentations on Zoom, click or tap the screen right here. My name is Markus Seppälä. Thank you very much for watching.